Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4054. Today's date is May 14, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 7:28 a.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right. So, question is, how will I delete the data fully? Okay. So, first of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build a app called My Artifact. Okay, what exactly is this application? When you write the diary every single day, you cannot write the diary the way that you wanted to. The reason is that uh, when you write a diary, there is a lot of constraint. You need a pen, you need a paper, you need a convenience to write the diary. And because of writing kind of like a giving you all that inconvenience, uh, it kind of like simply let you to not to express your thoughts, like that's why very less people are kind of like writing the diary or journal or things and that. Or even if they are kind of like writing a diary, they are might not gonna write the diary the way that they wanted to, because these are constraints. But what if we could kind of like simply change from writing a diary to recording a diary, like audio recording a diary? Like this audio recording a diary I call Artifact. Okay, yeah. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is My Artifact. My Artifact episode number 4054. And I am doing this thing for past 11 year. I am doing this thing for every single day. Being recording Artifact or writing a diary is a self reflection process. You actually connect with yourself, and throughout this period of time I actually connect with myself, and because of this thing it add so much amount of value inside of me. The person that I am today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of that key Artifact. Okay. And the amount of value that I get from this Artifact, I wanted to share this value. I wanted to share that people should supposed to feel this value, feel this kind of like a the the kind of like somebody they would supposed to be connect with themselves. They Artifact kind of like solve so many problems, because most of the problem it comes from you, and the Artifact is actually cleansing you, okay, to become better you. Okay, it's not gonna happen like just beginning. No, it takes time, but it's a process, and it does kind of like help you, make you better humans and things and that. I wanted to share this technicality. How do you supposed to record the Artifact and things and that. But how do I supposed to share this thing? By building an application. Okay. So my application is a kind of like a somewhat something like a YouTube. In the YouTube platform, you actually upload your video. Other people sees your video. In this platform, in that Artifact platform, is a kind of like a same. You record your Artifact, upload your Artifact, other people listen your Artifact. Okay. Now basically what I realized that ki, um, like I wanted to build this application, and I wanted to know all the possible consequences that might goes wrong, and I wanted to aware of that all the worst possible consequences. So I went to ChatGPT. I tell my idea that this is the app that I wanted to build, and suggest me suggest me like hundreds of all the possible consequences that I might kind of like talk to me, like I will kind of like aware of all the possible consequences. So suggest me almost like a hundreds of questions. So ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me hundreds of question. This is that the question. Okay, this is one of those question. By the way, the question actually in the mobile phone, but because of this recording, I cannot do anything at all. So that's why I wrote the question in here. This is the question. By the way, I'm reading this book. It's been almost like a month I'm reading this book. Okay, and like uh, like there is only just like this many kind of like pages are still remaining. But I think that na, like I'm not kind of like reading it that much. Like yesterday, I haven't really read this book. Is because of that. Yesterday I was quite on busy and things and that and that. Also is this thing I'm not trying to read so many things like I'm kind of like a thing that na, ki this book is a kind of like a very difficult to consume in a head. So instead of reading too much, I forget everything. I realized that I should supposed to be read at least like a just 10 minute. Okay, just a 10 minute, not too much. Like usually before I was kind of like reading half an hour, but I realized that no, just 10 minute read. Okay, yeah. If the book is kind of like a very much difficult to consume, then probably just read a 10 minute. And yeah, since I'm reading 10 minute, it's good. Okay, it's a kind of like a bitly consumable information. And yeah, it might gonna take another month. Yeah, like still there is a kind of like a this much pages left, but still it will gonna take me another month to complete this book. Another month or maybe probably 2 3 week. Yeah. Okay, so question is that sorry, I was like, how do I delete the data fully? Okay, what exactly is this thing? Okay, yeah. Now artifact is a anonymous artifact. I'm kind of like a giving the user a complete privacy. Okay, privacy means like that ki their information will not gonna kind of like a reveal to the anyone. Okay, their name, their identity. I will kind of like a kept the promise that ki these kind of like information will not supposed to be shared. That is true. Okay, yeah. If I'm say this thing that ki my platform is a kind of like a private database, okay, like basically people will kind of like share their very secretive thoughts and things and that. I have to be kept the secret as possible. Okay, but secret from who? A secret from kind of like a something a normal user. Okay, a normal user will always kind of like a being really secret. They will not gonna know who you are, what you are, because all the privacy feature. Okay, yeah. I'm not talking about the privacy feature. Okay, like I already talk about this thing. I'm not gonna talk about that. But some people are kind of like a very extra. Oh yeah, and some people are kind of like a do something crazy. Some people are use hacking to who try to know who is that particular person, and this will happen that ki people will trying to know who is that particular person and things and that. Okay, this is the one thing. Okay, like I am not kind I'm trying to use all the privacy to the user, but as well as kept it kind of like all the kind of like a user will not gonna know who is that particular person and things like that. And for that particular process I have this multiple privacy layer I already mentioned. Yeah, but hackers, these are the kind of like a things. Okay, another thing is that he I have to be kept private. Like I have to be kind of like a somebody make sure that these hacker will not gonna get information. Okay, another thing, this is me. Okay, yeah, like this is me. This is kind of like a somebody me means artifact. Oh yeah, like if I'm say this thing that ki all the privacy feature are for the user, so basically is it belong to me as well? Like basically I am the kind of like a owner. I am kind of like a building this platform. Not me means like my platform. And basically is this thing that ki should I supposed to be not to know who you are and what you are? Okay, so this is kind of like a very big question that it asks. Another thing is that ki if the user wanted to delete the data, what is exactly happened with that data? Should I supposed to be delete or not, or things and that? What do I supposed to take? First, let's talk about the hacker. Okay, yeah. Does hacker will hack the system? Does hacker will hack the artifact? Yeah, definitely they will. Even if I try to be encrypted, even if I try to be secure my profile, or even if I try to secure my platform as much as possible, hacker will gonna hack. And that is true. um it's not really that I'm kind of like a somebody very like low on security. No, definitely not. I will try to make sure the my platform is kind of like a is not really hackable. Okay, I will kind of like utilize as much as better is firewall and things and that. But let me tell you the human psychology. Okay, I already mentioned, but still. Okay, um you have a birthday, someone kind of like brought you a gift, a this much big gift with complete wrapper page. Now basically is this thing, you kind of like seen this gift, this is the kind of like this big gift, and this is a completely wrap. You always have curiosity that what is exactly in that box. Okay, yeah, always wanted to know what is exactly inside that box. And because of you wanted to know inside that box, you wrap that wrapper paper, you broke that wrapper paper, and then you see, okay, it's a train, and you already have a train and things and that. Let me tell you one thing now. Humans are very curious people, and they wanted to know all the answer. Even if they don't need it, even if they don't need the answer, they just wanted to know the answer. Okay, and why is that? Because it's a human curiosity. It's a it's a human curiosity. They just wanted to know that thing, even if they don't need the information. They just wanted to know. And basically that's the same mentality of hacker. Okay, yeah. Even if I try to build better firewall or better kind of like a things or better kind of like a things, it's a kind of like that na ki I am kind of like a wrap up that gift with a kind of like even thicker wrapper page. Okay, yeah. And it doesn't really make sense because of that wrapper page are meant to be kind of like a broken. Hacker will kind of like a break that firewall. They might not, in the future they will, or they will utilize even more stronger tool to kind of like a hack. They will. Okay, it's a kind of like a thing that na ki uh, a kind of like a somebody is this thing that ki you have a kind of like a somebody a kind of like a diamond. Okay, yeah, which is wrapped up in a box with very strong firewall, very strong security and things and that. You kind of like assume that diamond is a very expensive diamond. Okay, yeah. And basically you wanted to steal that diamond because, like, if you are the kind of like a somebody the wrong person, then you wanted to steal that diamond because you already kind of like a generate an image inside your head that ki, the value of the diamond is a very secure, a very expensive, is because of that there is a lot of security. Okay, but the same diamond is actually lying on the floor, then you might think that ki, it's just a diamond. Yeah, let me tell you one thing. Any kind of like a value, any kind of like object does have a value. It depends on how much rare is that one thing and how much people are actually securing that thing. If the so many people are kind of like a securing that thing, then that thing is a kind of like a very much like a valuable. If you're not really understanding this concept, I'm gonna kind of like give you another example. Let's say kind of like a you went to railway station and you are kind of like a waiting for your train, you are on the platform. Okay, yeah. And now you see a kind of like a somebody particular person who like a Donald Trump, like literally Donald Trump. And you are kind of like a very confused that this particular person look exactly like a Donald Trump, but you're not really sure that is it Don, like basically you think that na ki, why does Donald Trump will kind of like a waiting on platform for the train. Okay, yeah. So even if you know that this is a kind of like a Donald Trump, or maybe kind of like a look like a Donald Trump, you might not go there and you might not gonna talk. Why? Because of that key, like it's a like how the why does kind of like a somebody president of United States will kind of like a waiting on the railway station platform? Definitely not. Oh yeah, you might think this might be a kind of like a random guy who will look like a Donald Trump, and yeah, okay, but this that particular person is a Donald Trump. It literally is a Donald Trump. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing, the value of the value of the Donald Trump is a kind of like a depend upon how many security that he has. Okay, yeah, it has a kind of like a so many kind of like a secret service agent is kind of like around them. Then people start to believe that okay, this is a Donald Trump. But if he's a kind of like a somebody just like a staying there, just kind of like a somebody alone and kind of like a waiting for the railway, waiting for the platform, waiting for the railway in the platform, people might think that okay, yeah, he's just kind of like a guy who look like a Donald Trump and things and that and that. That's a kind of like a human psychology. Oh yeah. When we try to protect it, we wanted to break that thing. Okay, yeah. But if that thing is kind of like a easily available, then people don't really care that all much all. People don't really care that much all. Okay. So that's a kind of like a thing that I have to understand. So bigger the firewall, people will always try to break that firewall. Yeah, that's a kind of like a things. Okay, and that's a human psychology. But it doesn't mean that my firewall is not strong enough. It doesn't mean that I will not gonna protect the user data. I will protect the user data as much as possible with all the possible sources and things and that and that. But I'm kind of like a thinking about the human psychology. Okay, why does kind of like a thing actually happen? Okay, now let's talk about something that key basically is this thing. Even if the hacker will get the data of user data, what they will gonna do? Okay, what they will gonna do? That's a kind of like a thing. Okay, because let me tell you one thing now. It's not that you are kind of like a taking the information from a kind of like a random user, because if you are a hacker and you are hacking the artifact and you are kind of like a taking the data from user, the data that you have is worthless or useless. Why? Is because of that, first of all, that data is kind of like a encrypted, first of all, so you cannot do this thing, but still you are kind of like a hacker and you decrypted that particular data, whatever. Okay, yeah. But even if you have that data, what do you supposed to do with that? Oh yeah, because if you think, let's just kind of like a say, okay, simple example. Okay, yeah. um kind of like a somebody is this thing that probably there is a random guy who's kind of like looking at me. I don't know why. I might be kind of like somebody change this might be kind of like a much more better. Okay, so let's take a kind of like a simple example. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you, yeah. So okay, let's say president of United States. Oh yeah. So president of United States record a artifact. Okay, yeah, regarding about something. Okay. Now basically he's a president of United States, one of the most powerful person on the planet. Okay, yeah. And he record the artifact. That means the record, he's not kind of like a talking about, like he's not just a kind of like a normal person. He's a Donald Trump. Okay, yeah. And people wanted to know that what he kind of like said and things and that and that. Okay, now some people will gonna hack and they will kind of like get the information that Donald Trump kind of like said this stuff. Okay, but first of all, how they will gonna know that this recording belong to the artifact, sort of belong to the Donald Trump or belong to the US president? How they will gonna know? Because there is no way to find out that this kind of like artifact belong to this particular character. Why? Because all the privacy layer. Okay, yeah. The name and everything actually trim out. Okay, yeah. The kind of like assembly, all the kind of like a suggestion and things and everything. Okay, yeah. So basically it's this thing that if the Donald Trump is kind of like a recording the artifact, first of all, that particular person understand his value and he will not gonna mention the name. That is for sure. And also app is kind of like a design in such a way that they should supposed to be mention their name and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. With a kind of like a privacy screen and kind of like a somebody the warning screen and things and that. Okay. Another thing is that even if they mention this kind of like information, that particular information, the noun is kind of like a trimmed down. Okay, yeah. Trimmed down in the app. Okay, in the kind of like some things. And also that artifact will not gonna publish until and unless the Donald Trump or maybe President of United States will kind of like a listen the entire stuff that he said. Okay, yeah. After he listened everything, then and only then that artifact went public. Before that, that artifact would not gonna went public. Okay, yeah. So whatever the data that it actually on the internet or that it actually on the my platform or my server, if the hacker will gonna hack, they will not gonna know the information that they kind of like somebody pull out, that information is belong to the Donald Trump, because they will not gonna know, because that information is actually kind of like somebody just gone. It's not exist, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. Just a kind of like a story of the Donald Trump or maybe kind of like a things, and it's very hard to predict that this kind of like a particular person thinks in that and that. Okay, yeah. With kind of like a somebody that key, if that particular person like a Donald Trump is kind of like a user kind of like a somebody AI voice cloning, then even more difficult to kind of like understand that particular person and things like that. Okay, so this is a kind of like a things, that's why is this thing that na, ki even if the hacker will kind of like hack the information, they the information that they track is very useless. They cannot do anything at all. It's just a random person talking about the shit life that he been through. And yeah, now this is a kind of like a things, but let's talk about a kind of like a that key, like a some in the future things might be very crazy. Okay, yeah. um we are not stealing the data. In the future we might kind of like a steal the kind of like a thought process. Okay, yeah. And that's a kind of like a things, let's just say a kind of like a somebody hacker is actually hack a user data, only one user data, and that user data is he's kind of like a recording artifact for past 2 3 year. Okay, yeah. And the hacker will hack the entire artifact of that he been kind of like a recording for past 2 3 year, and kind of like a collected almost like a 2 3 year of data. Okay, yeah, probably. The artifact that I mentioned is this thing, it doesn't really have any name on things and that, it's a very hard to track. Okay, yeah. So how does hacker will kind of like a hack the only one user data? It's not really possible, but still um, like it's not really possible as also, like basically just like that na, like it's a kind of like a thing, imagine a kind of like a somebody a grain. Okay, yeah. A kind of like a somebody like a gavache dane. Okay, and you have a kind of like a bunch of like almost like a mountains of grains of wheat. Okay, yeah. And you have to be find a kind of like a one seed of black wheat of grain, black color. How do you suppose to find the mountain of this kind of like a something mountain of this kind of like a something grain and things like that you cannot. How do you supposed to find that thing, even if there is in front of you there is a, like, yeah, it's a kind of like a finding a kind of like a black grain of wheat on the mountain of grain of wheat. Okay, even if you're a hacker, if you're try to kind of like a things, it's not really possible at all. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, yeah. That key, even if the hacker will kind of like a hack the things, they will not gonna know what they kind of like a hack or what kind of like information that they pull. Okay, so that's a kind of like a things. Okay, but even after they pull the data, okay, yeah, it's a very difficult to track, because difficult to things, because all the data is actually scrambled and things and that. Okay, because of the encryption model and things and that. So basically it's this thing that na ki I am allowing hackers to hack my system, but even after they hack, they will kind of like see the mountains of datas, and they don't know what they should supposed to do with that. They can pull that data, but they like 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 too much of data that just like, oh my god, it's just not really possible. Still I'm not allowing hacker to hack my artifact. Don't, definitely not. Don't get it kind of like a wrong way. No, it's not. I'm kind of like a telling you mentality is that key, it's not really kind of like a things. Okay, yeah, because hacker are kind of like a hack the information regarding about people. They will not gonna talk about the kind of like some things that key, like when you wake up and what kind of like some omelette that you eat. What they will gonna know with that thing? probably they might kind of like somebody thinks that ki, okay, this particular person have a kind of like somebody that ki 3 gram of protein from the he kind of like egg kind of like this morning as a egg in the breakfast. Okay, so that's why he got 3 grams of protein. Probably you might get this information, but also it's very worthless information because yeah, that's what. So basically, is this thing, can hacker will hack my system? Yeah, okay. And can hacker will kind of utilize this information for wrong purposes? They might not, but still they will. Like basically, is this thing, wrong mentality of the people might gonna do something very wrong thing with kind of like such a thing that you don't even know. Like let me kind of like tell you. Let's just say, okay, yeah, I am recording this artifact which is uploaded on YouTube platform. Okay, yeah. Now what if one kind of like a random person, what we're gonna do is that he download all my video on YouTube platform, all my artifact, okay, and kind of like somebody trim out a kind of like a particular section, okay, a kind of like a word by word, like basically is this thing that na ki he wanted to kind of like send a message that ki a hacker will kind of like kill the president of United States, okay, yeah, but he wanted to share this message through my way. How? Like basically whatever the kind of like stuff that are recording, that particular hacker will kind of like trim down the kind of like information like this, that. Like basically is this thing that key, I will kill the president of United States in this morning. So basically I means like a I word came from the different artifact, will gonna came from different artifact, kill will come from the different artifact, or different artifact, like a different artifact kind of like clips are attached into it, kind of like a create a cluster, and that cluster create a video, and that video kind of like a share and things and that probably. Okay, so every person, every hacker will have different motive regarding about things and that, and they always kind of like figure it out a way to kind of like a things and that. So basically the long story short, okay, does hacker will hack the information? Does hacker will hack the system? I will prevent everything to not to hack, but still. Now another thing, okay, that key like I already mentioned regarding about hacker. I already mentioned that every data is actually in the on the artifact is encrypted, okay, yeah, and hacker will not gonna hack the things, okay, yeah. Now the biggest defenses for this hacker, that how do I supposed to make sure that data will not gonna hack, is making sure that data is not exist. When the data is not exist, data will not gonna hack, because there is no hack to data, okay, because there is no data, okay. So making sure that key data is not only the encrypted, but if the data is user is not utilizing, or user is kind of like a thing that he not like it's not really that much important, then, and if the user kind of like press the command that delete my artifact, then I have to make sure that I have to be delete this data, delete this artifact, not only from the user profile but as well as kind of like from the server, okay, yeah, everything that I have to be delete, then I have to be delete that thing, okay. So this is a one way to kind of like assembly solve the hacker problem. Might be, I'm not really sure, but still I will gonna utilize all the possible encryption model to kind of like make sure the data is kind of like a secure and as much as possible. My promise, I will make sure that, okay. But I don't know what kind of like hacker might gonna do and things and that, but still, okay, yeah. This is the thing. Now another thing, is the data is actually secure from my secure from other, or actually kind of like somebody can I able to be access user data, okay. Then I would say that key, no, I will not gonna access the user data. I also kind of like simply block out from the user data, okay, yeah. Let me kind of like tell you how is that, okay, yeah. Like maybe just like that, if I'm gonna say that key, I will not like the information will kind of like assembly like a trim down, or maybe kind of like assembly that key I will not gonna access, because like I am the like artifact, and artifact will not gonna access the user data and things and that, if I'm gonna say this thing, then it's not really good thing, Okay, because I have to be access the user data. Okay, why? First of all, giving all those security protocols and things and that sorting, making sure that privacy layer is kind of like encrypted and things and that. If I'm not really sure who do I supposed to be protect, how do I supposed to protect them? Okay, yeah, I have to be know who am I protect. So basically, I have to be know. Artifact should supposed to be know. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's this thing that user data will kind of like assembly that he like a basically kept it hidden from myself. No, it's not. Okay, because I have to make sure like I'm not gonna like okay, yeah, this is kind of like a very much controversial thing. Okay, yeah. I wanted to build the Atom. Okay, yeah. And that's a very much essential. Now Atom is trained on your data, your platform, like whatever you kind of like said in the artifact and things like that. Atom train on that data. Okay, yeah. And why am I kind of like focusing on Atom that much? Because I am trying to build Atom that could predict the future, that could predict the possibility that what could gonna happen. Okay, yeah. Atom is a AI, and Atom is a try to simulate the things in the further future that what will gonna happen, and how do I supposed to kind of like solve the problem that might gonna come up in a real life. Like a as I mentioned, like I previously mentioned regarding about the Atom, but still again I mentioned Atom is a kind of like a future prediction model. Okay, it could predict the future. How it could predict the future? By data, by kind of like assembly. Every person is actually follow the kind of like a particular routine and things and that. So it is very much kind of like easier for kind of like a somebody predict that what would you supposed to do. Like tomorrow, when will I wake up? uh, I will gonna wake up at 7 a.m. or will be 6:30 a.m. Okay, yeah. I will not gonna wake up at 9 a.m. Right? Because why I'm saying that I will not gonna wake up at 9 a.m. because from last 5 year I never really been wake up at 5 a.m. Sorry, 9 a.m. Okay, so basically this is what it is. Like basically it's this thing that now whatever the data that you have, it could kind of like try to predict that what kind of like a next step that could supposed to be do. Okay, yeah. So Atom predict that data and kind of like use that predictable data to run the simulation to kind of like making sure that key whatever the kind of like assembly that key chances or whatever the problem that it get, that problem should supposed to be kind of like a figure it out in the simulation level. Okay, yeah. So that all the mistakes should supposed to be fixed in the simulation level. We will try to figure it out that mistake and things and that make it kind of like a final refined product. And when we make the final refined product which has a kind of like a very less mistake, then it will kind of like a publicly available. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a Atom. Okay, Atom is a kind of like a predicting model. Okay, so a simulation kind of like a things. Okay, how does Atom will kind of like add value to the humanity? Example, let's say a government wanted to execute a policy regarding about something. Let's just say I'm belong to the India, and basically it's this thing that key government wanted to execute a policy regarding about the women education and things and that. How does kind of like somebody women are try to educate and things and that. So basically it's this thing that key policy maker kind of like implement a plan that key this is the way that we should supposed to be kind of like educate the women of India. Okay, yeah. Now a policymaker implement that plan. Now basically that plan should supposed to be kind of like a re-verify in the simulation, like in the Atom simulation. In the Atom, kind of like a create a digital universe regarding about when that plan implement in the real life, what will gonna happen. Now because of Atom have information regarding about all the training data of the artifact, and Atom will have information regarding about the thought process of the all the people and things and that. It try to simulate the data. It try to kind of like predict that multiples of consequences that what will gonna happen, that key if that kind of like a plan making the Indian women kind of like educate and things, if the policymaker implement that like a they have a plan, and before they wanted to implement, they wanted to kind of like a simulate the plan that what will gonna happen. Then Atom try to simulate all the possible consequences, worst possible consequences, good possible consequences, everything. Okay, yeah. And because of this all the possible consequences, the policymaker will kind of like how choose, they will have understand that key okay, like this problem might gonna cause, like even if the plan is kind of like a really great on the paper, but when you try to implement on the simulation, we understand that key, like on the billions of people, how it might gonna affect. Okay, yeah, things and that how does kind of like a people are actually utilize that plan for wrong purposes. Okay, because every action comes with the consequences. Okay, so even if the plan is really good, it might be gonna kind of like a simply comes with a kind of like a bad consequences too, and that bad consequences detect on Adam simulation. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what the Adam is. That Adam is kind of like a figure it out the like a basically the all the possible that mistake will gonna happen in real life. Adam makes sure that all the possible mistakes should supposed to be happening in simulation, so that we will kind of like figure it out and kind of like implement the much more better way. Let me understand in a simple language. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's say a kind of like a thing that I have an implementation plan regarding about the educating the women in India. Okay, this is the kind of like a plan that I have. I am the policymaker. Okay, so basically is this thing that I will implement this. I wanted to implement this plan on government and things and that, but I wanted to know verify. So what exactly happened? I went to kind of like Adam simulation and kind of like a try to kind of like a simulate the plan that what will gonna happen in the billions of users of people. Okay, yeah. So how does Adam will kind of like things? Adam will have information regarding about the Indian people, like Indian people are kind of like a recording artifact and things and that. So they have kind of like a data, and Adam and they have kind of like a thought process that what they will gonna do and things and that. Obviously, the information that Adam has is already kind of like a encrypted, and only Adam will accept that encryption data. And also the data that Adam has is also kind of like a trimmed out version, like they don't know the your name and things and that. Okay, yeah, just Adam just have just thought process that what would you come to kind, what would you supposed to be do in that situation, the thought process, and it can kind of like generate the kind of like a possibility that what would you supposed to be do. Okay, yeah. So basically what will gonna happen is that when I have this kind of like implementation plan regarding about the educating women in India, and I wanted to kind of like simply implement this plan, and I went to Adam simulation and try to run the simulation. So in that situation, what will gonna happen is that when you try to kind of like simply that educate the women are being educated. Okay, so when the women are educated, they are kind of like simply adding value to the society. They are kind of like simply became a really good workforce. Okay, because of the women are kind of like a very emotionally sensitive people. Okay, sensitive human. They are kind of like somebody is this thing that they are not really good at kind of like handling the toxic culture. Okay, yeah, as a men do, like a men are really okay with the toxic culture. Okay, but women are might not. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, if I wanted to implement this plan, then I have to make sure that the work culture is not become toxic. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing that like basically is this thing, if I wanted to implement the education on in the things and that I figure it out that work culture shouldn't supposed to be toxic and things and that. Now these kind of like information I get from the Adam, that women are not really perform really well on toxic culture. Okay, one thing. Another thing, when the women are kind of like a bit really educated and things and that, there are multiple consequences will can happen. True. Okay, what kind of like consequences? First of all is that when the women are educating and when the women are try to understand and things and that, what is gonna happen that they have kind of like a problem that who they're supposed to be kind of like a stay in the home and kind of like a take care of the kids and things and that. There is a kind of like a problem will gonna happen. Okay, yeah. Now as a man, as a woman, they are kind of like a both working, so who will gonna take care and things and that. And basically is this thing, because of the kind of like assembly that we are kind of like a living in such a society, we are kind of like assembly the man is always our first preference, and women are always kind of like a meant to be taking care of the kids and things and that. So women is after the doing a job, they will kind of like come home, and when she come home, she will kind of like taking care of the kids and things and she's always been exhausted and things and that. When she exhausted, she might gonna get ill or things or that and that. So probably in that situation, the casual leave, like basically if this thing, if I wanted to implement the casual leave for the men and women, then probably I have to make sure that the casual leave for women is kind of like a higher than the men. Okay, yeah. Like let's say within a year you will kind of like get the 15 casual leave for the men, but female it should supposed to be kind of like a 30 casual leave. Okay, you get it. So this kind of like information that you get from the Adam. Okay, so that the problem that might gonna cause in the future, it will kind of like simply fix that problem right now in the Adam simulation. Okay, so this is what it is. Another thing is that, okay, when the kind of like a women are kind of like educated and things and that, then that woman might have kind of like understand regarding about their life and things and that. And also is this thing, women try to kind of like simply decide that key what's kind of like a best in her life. Okay, and if that woman does not really get the best in her life, she might gonna take divorce. Okay, yeah. A educated woman kind of like some higher chances to kind of like take a divorce. Okay, so so when the women kind of like take the divorce, then what exactly happened? The kind of like a divorce rate will gonna happen, the family will gonna collapse and things and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So basically, if the women are kind of like educated, the divorce rate will gonna happen, the family will gonna collapse and things and that and that. Okay, so how do I supposed to make sure that this will not gonna happen? Okay, yeah. So making sure that kind of like our wedding structure or kind of like a bit more better, or maybe kind of like things that naki, if the women are kind of like being really independent or things and that, she have to be kind of like somebody understand she should supposed to be choose such a partner that right for her. Okay, yeah. Also another thing is that naki, if the women are kind of like taking a divorce, making sure that the impact does not really impact on the family, or specifically does not impact on their kids and things and that. So do you understand? So basically this is what it is. It's not just a kind of like somebody you implement things and it will gonna happen. Adam run that multiple consequences, run that multiple scenario regarding about what will gonna happen, and it will kind of like a flag out that this might gonna happen, this might gonna happen, this might gonna happen, this might not gonna happen. So when the policymaker will kind of like understand, okay, like this might gonna happen, so we will kind of like tweak our implementation plan a little bit better. Okay, tweak our implementation plan a little bit better. This is what will happen, and this is what kind of like the power of Adam. Adam will kind of like simply predict the possibility of kind of like a things and try to aware of that this might be a wrong thing happen, and that is Adam. Okay, and Adam need a training data. Okay, and that training data comes from the artifact. Okay, so basically is this thing that key I am taking the user data to train the Adam. Am I doing it wrong? I don't know, but like I like basically is this thing na ki, like why not you kind of like a train the kind of like internet data? Why do you kind of like a thinking about the artifact data? Like why are you kind of like thinking about that? Because of that na ki, the data that internet has is not the data of human. It's a very complex data. Okay, like basically let me tell you one thing, the data that internet has, some data is actually created by human, most of the data is actually created by the AI and things and that, and which is not really good to train the data, to train the Adam, because Adam wanted to know the thought process of human. Okay, yeah, and not just one people thought process, it need billions of kind of like a so many people's thought process. And when the Adam will have that billions of people's of thought process, then Adam will kind of like a refine that key. Okay, I will have to implement this plan in that way that this might gonna trigger, because let me tell you one thing now, why do I know this thing that this kind of like a problem will gonna happen? Because I'm the human, I'm thinking from human point of perspective, I understand the consequences that will gonna happen. Okay, Adam is a AI, it does not understand what is the right consequences and wrong consequences. Okay, yeah. So the right and wrong difference, that's very much essential na. AI does not understand what is really right and what is really wrong, but Adam will. And how does Adam will? Because of training data that artifact that has. So that's the kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. I'm kind of like thinking that now Adam will kind of like somebody change the entire human structure. Okay, yeah. The problem that we will do in the real world, that problem will kind of like a fix in the simulation in the digital world, and try to implement even more refined product in the real world, so that less mistake will gonna happen, less problem will gonna happen, less kind of like a wrong thing will gonna happen. So this is what I'm trying to be. That's why I'm kind of trying to build the artifact. I'm trying to build the Adam. Okay, and Adam is that thing. Okay, and for that thing, Adam will kind of like utilize the artifact data. Okay, is it wrong? Well, no, I'm thinking about everything, but like basically is this thing na ki, no, it's not wrong thing. Okay, because of that na ki, if I'm saying that ki, like am I the only one kind of like doing it? That no, definitely not. Okay, yeah, ChatGPT uses internet data to kind of like train the model. Okay, yeah, Grok is kind of like utilizing the tweets of all around the planets, how many people are kind of like a tweeting and things and that Grok train on that. Okay, that's why kind of like a Grok kind of like a somebody give you a very racist comment or things and that, even if the kind of like a Grok kind of like a generate a nude kind of like a images and things and that because the people thought process and things and that. Okay, yeah. Google Gemini kind of like a train the data regarding about the data that Google generated through all those years and things and that. Okay, yeah. Every kind of like a AI model are kind of like a use the people data on the internet on their kind of like a platform and things like that. Specifically, Grok is have a kind of like they are like a Meta is also utilizing a kind of like their user data to kind of like work on the Meta AI. So it's a kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. So am I doing it wrong to kind of like a somebody train like a user kind of like a train? Okay, basically it's this thing na ki if you are kind of like a disagree that ki like artifact shouldn't supposed to be kind of like a use for Adam. Okay, basically it's this thing. I will kind of like implement a kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. If you are think that ki your data will not gonna utilize for Adam purposes, then probably is this thing that na ki like a I don't know, yeah, like I can't like I don't know how do I supposed to say this thing. Okay, yeah, like dude, because of your artifact Adam will gonna build, and because of the Adam the problem will gonna happen in the future will not gonna happen, and it will gonna add value in you. It will add gonna value in you. Let me promise you, people will not gonna utilize Adam for wrong purposes. I will definitely make sure that ki Adam utilized for right purposes. Definitely, yeah. I'm making sure that I'm keeping that promise. If I'm taking the data from your, I will keep that promise that Adam will kind of like utilize your data for only and only right purposes, and it only and only added value in you indirectly. Okay, not directly, indirectly. Indirectly means like that, na, ki your future offspring will kind of like be getting better values regarding about everything and that and that. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so am I evil? No, I don't. I'm not like I'm not using your data. I'm using your data. I'm not using your identity. By the way, like I'm not using any kind of like a single identity of your like a Adam does not know your name, your identity, nothing really at all. Artifact only take the two information from the user. Okay, first information, the geolocation, GPS, where you are come from, and also the timing. Okay, like when you record the artifact. Okay, so that's a kind of like a two information that artifact kind of like a get it, and same the information kind of like goes to the Adam, and Adam train on that data too. So I'm not evil. I'm not evil. Okay, I'm like, just trust me. I'm kind of like somebody making sure that Adam will kind of like add a value in you. Literally, it will gonna add value in you. If you wanted to build something in the future, if you wanted to implement the policy, if you wanted to make your life better and things like that, and that, Adam will really help you with that thing. And Adam will only gonna help you with that thing, the stuff that you wanted to achieve, is because of the data that you have. Like, this is a very controversial thing. Okay, yeah, controversial topic regarding about that and that. But I have to do this thing. I have to do this thing because the next version of artifact is the Adam. And if you're thinking that na, ki probably Adam will kind of like become a Terminator, kind of like a Skynet, and kind of like try to rule over the world. It's a movie concept, na, dude. It's not gonna happen. Like, okay, let me kind of like something tell you. Okay, what I think. Okay, yeah, I might be wrong, but what I'm thinking. Okay, yeah. So let's just say a human destruction. Okay, in the movies are kind of like a mention that key in the future robots will kind of like take over the world and things and that, and human will kind of like destroy and things and that. Okay, yeah. In real world, is it actually happen? It does not actually happen. Let me kind of like tell you why. Okay, so basically human growth are constantly evolving, like basically just this and that and that and that and that and that. And since the industrial revolution happened, it just grows so rapidly. Okay, yeah. Now the nature is a kind of like a work on the same way, is that key kind of like assembly everything should supposed to be grow. Okay, yeah. Sometime it gets stagnant, but it should supposed to be grow. It always meant to be grow, always meant to be grow. Okay, yeah. It does not go down. Okay, why it does not go down? Because of that key. Let me tell you one thing. um, Growth come not only come from one people, no, growth come from everybody. So if the one particular person fuck up, other people are kind of like taking care of that and kind of like make sure that growth will gonna happen. Human growth is always been increasing. It always be that graph will always go upward. It will not gonna go down. Okay, yeah. The only way that graph will slow down, the only way that graph will kind of like a down, the only way that graph will gonna stop in that position there is no human left for grow the graph further. There is no human left on that situation to kind of like a grow this line even more higher. Growth come from human. If there is no human, there is no growth. So basically at some certain like basically after thousands of years probably we might achieve so much amount of growth, and in that particular period of time there is no human are there to kind of like get the growth. So this particular time the growth are stopped over there. It just not go down, it just stop over there because there is no kind of like a people over there. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing. The destruction of the human is not comes from the innovation. It comes from lack of human. That is true, by the way. That is true because we will in the future we might arrive at such a place where kind of like a thing is that na ki there is no human left for innovation. There is no human left for destruction. So yeah, probably this is kind of like a thing. Innovation never really kind of like stop the growth. Innovation always kind of like a somebody like it shape the thought process. When the internet actually happened, people might not think that internet was a big thing. Right now everything on internet. Right now this revolution actually happened that AI kind of like changed the world. Okay, yeah. After the 10-20 year, AI will kind of like change the entire world. Adam will also kind of like that phase too. That Adam will kind of like somebody else's thing that is shape the implementation plan and things and that. Growth, innovation never really stop the growth. Innovation always help to grow even more higher. Okay, yeah. The only way to kind of like simply stop the growth by not having the people or yeah. I've been talking for almost like a 52 minute. Okay. Okay, yeah. So regarding about the question, okay, yeah, the question is that sorry. Okay, the question is that how do I supposed to be how do I build the data? Okay, how do I supposed to delete the user data if the user wanted to? If the user wanted to delete the data, I am gonna make sure that data should supposed to delete not only from the app but as well as kind of like a server and things and that. Also, I make sure that data should supposed to be clear out from the cache. Also, I make sure that that data kind of like a somebody trimmed out or kind of like a not only just trimmed out, kind of like a permanently delete that data. If the user wanted that, I have to make sure that the data should supposed to be deleted. But there is a one possible thing. Okay, there is a one possible consequence that will gonna happen. Sorry, I'm really tired right now. I'm almost like a talking for almost like a 53 minute. Okay, yeah, this is very much essential, by the way. People will kind of like a take the decision according to the emotion. Okay, yeah, when they are so angry, when they are so sad, when they are so emotionally things and that. Example, let's just say a particular person recording an artifact for past almost like a 1 year. Okay, yeah. Now what is actually happened that some worst thing will gonna happen in his life. Probably he might fail in some sort of exam. Okay, yeah. And he might think that his life is worthless, pathetic and things and that. And basically he believing that ki artifact would kind of like really help me to improve my life and things like that. But artifact does not really help, nothing really at all. So in that situation, he is kind of like so frustrated, and he delete the entire artifact library. He delete the entire artifact that he recorded from last year. Okay, yeah. So in that situation, what do I supposed to do? Do I kind of like let the data delete or things like that and that? That is called impulsive decision. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing now. If you are fail in exam, is it kind of like a responsible for artifact? That artifact is like a, you are fail in exam is because of the artifact? No, you fail in exam because of the lack of practice. You fail in exam because of lack of something that you might not have that thing. Okay, yeah. Artifact is kind of like a really help you to become better. That is good. Okay, but also another thing is that na ki life is a too big. If you are fail in exam, life is not end. Okay, life is not end. So if you are kind of like a taking a frustration decision that ki, I should supposed to delete all the kind of like assembly artifact and things and that is called impulsive behavior or impulsive decision. And I wanted to prevent that impulsive behavior or impulsive decision. Because of that na ki that particular person need that artifact, need the previously he kind of like a recorded artifact, that data, that artifact, he needs that in the future. Why? Because he will understand that a year ago I was kind of like a thinking about that, and kind of like a reflection that he kind of like a what he was kind of like a thinking year ago. Like a basically today I am better because of that. I know that my past is a kind of like a not better. So basically, if I'm say that today I'm better is because of that I was not better at yesterday. So when I was not better at yesterday and today I'm better, so that's some kind of like a say I'm better. Okay, yeah. If I don't really have that yesterday data, how do I make sure? How do I say that I am better? Because I don't really have any comparison ratio to kind of like a say that I am better. Okay, the past data is a kind of like a, that scale to kind of like a say that okay I am better than yesterday. Okay, that previously recorded artifact is very much essential for him to in the future that he okay I said this thing and probably is this thing I was kind of like so pathetic at that time, but right now I am not. Humans are meant to be relative, meant to be changed, meant to be like a things. Okay, like it meant to be changed. We are not stagnant. We are not kind of like stick with the kind of like a same kind of like a simply IQ or same thought process. No, our evolution, our thoughts, even you could change within a year. Literally, you have the body that you have, it change within a year. The biology works on that way. Your entire body structure actually change. Your hair, skin, everything actually change within a year. Your lungs, your inner organ change within a year. Your thoughts, mind are changed, everything throughout the time. Okay, yeah. These impulsive decision are kind of like a not only just kind of like a create the chaos. Okay, artifact try to warn them and try to kind of like a stop them to kind of like a take the impulsive decision. Okay, and if the user kind of like a taking that impulsive decision, artifact is not letting them to kind of like a take that impulsive decision. Okay, yeah. Deleting all the artifact never really allow them to delete all the artifact. Okay, if they wanted to delete, kind of like a making sure that reason for that and things like that, and making sure that process should supposed to delete should supposed to be slower. Not everything delete all at once. No, just kind of like a things. Okay, probably I have to talk about more about the delete kind of like a things, but this is kind of like a I think most of the thing I actually cover. All right, this is it. Thank you.